Welcome back everybody, how y'all doing? I'm Kitsone, the main developer and the artist for Thera. Today, I'm gonna be bringing you the first song overview for Booster Set 1, The Gathering of the Nations. Gamble for Arezon, one of my favorite decks now because I got to play it and it was fun. Gamble is one of the first cards that we started to reveal for Booster Set 1. Unfortunately, it's not supported by the Trial Song. Set Trial Song focuses on the creature Crimson Dragon Revon and relies on a power playstyle that tries to overrun any creature or any good and amass a large amount of power in a single strike. The Gamble playstyle focuses on the keyword Gamble and the ace creature, the Flaming Gambler, Precila, and likes to lead an early game rush with low-level creatures and playing against the opposition's moves with tricky and unforeseen effects. Although, due to the lack of power, their win condition tends to be stall the game until your opponent songs out. On their own, they lack a consistent shield to keep up with their early game aggression. So we have some additional cards in here to help with the defensive side of the song, turning into less of a rush song and more of a reaction tempo based one instead. So let's get started and see what we got going on over here. First up, to talk about a Gamble song, we must go over how the keyword Gamble works. To quote the rulebook, Gamble works like this. Gamble is an ability that activates when a creature is summoned or is attacking. When this ability is activated, the top card of your opponent's song is sent to the drop zone. If the card sent is listed in the user's ability, example, Lucky Lassie sends a spell to the drop zone, then the Gamble is successful. If the card sent is not in the card text, then the Gamble fails and the effect does not continue. Typically, cards with Gamble have two targets for possible success. Example, Lucky Lassie targets spells and traps. So most of the time you're playing with 2 to 5 odds. Do note, all of them follow the triggers, so if you see a trigger, nothing's happening. Now that we know what Gamble does, let's go ahead and talk about the creatures. First up, Hot Guesser. She's a level 1 with 100 power, who pays 1 when she's summoned to Gamble or spell or trap. If her Gamble is successful, you get to draw a card. She can increase the hand by just being placed on the field and allow to flood the board with even more creatures if you draw what you need. Her Gamble is simplistic but very helpful, and that's why she's a welcome foil in this deck. Next up is Lucky Lassie, an amazing level 1 with 100 power. You can send an opponent's creature back to the hand by paying 1 and seeing a spell or trap in your Gamble. She allows you to swing the board presence way back into your favor, because now your opponent has to spend an extra turn summoning back their Revon or Tiresias. It makes it really difficult for them to stop you, because now she's a level 1, you can just flood the board. That's why she's a welcome foil in the deck. Granted, you do need to get her Gamble off, but hey, she's a level 1. Doesn't work the first time? Just summon another one, if you have it. Now onto our Safeguard, Defensive Gambler. She's a human with 50 power and the Safeguard ability. When you're being attacked, discard this card, negate the attack. When you have no real strong attackers and your main thing is defending to stall out your opponent, this is an obvious foil. Now you can go with the Draco Kid, but we just wanted to stay on theme, have all the Gamblers together. That's all for our level 1s. Like stated earlier, this version of Gamble acts as a reaction tempo style song. Meaning, typically we want our opponent to take the lead on gameplay, and we can choose if we want to keep up. So we need defensive cards. We had many different options, but since Oolong made the deck, there was only one option he was gonna go with for level 2s. You know him, you love him, it's Hammer Dragon. Hammer Dragon is a level 2 from the Arezon Trial Song with an amazing 150 power. That's very strong for a level 2, and he has a pretty strong effect to boot. First one, we can use 1 pay to give him plus 50 power, and that's not once per turn. So let's say you have 4 pay. You use 3 of him on his effect, giving him an additional 150 power. That means he's sitting at a cool 300. That means he can beat over the 2 strongest cards in this game, Ruin Maker and Michael, and you still have 1 pay over for a gift check. That's awesome. His second ability is the main reason he's here, and Oolong's favorite. If he's able to destroy a creature in battle or deal your opponent damage, you get to draw 1 card. That's pretty good. Basically, that means no matter what, if he hits, you get to draw 1 card. So that's gonna make your opponent think real hard if they want to guard that or not. And only a handful of things could really get rid of him. You would have to beat over him or to destroy him by card effect. So with his ability to well support any level 3 we have, and with the additional hit pressure, he does his level 2 job just fine. That's why he's a 4 in this deck. Onto our level 3s. Let's continue with our defensive trend and continue with a backup for Hammer Dragon. It's the mighty, the powerful, the ace creature of the Crimson Flames, the level 3 Crimson Dragon Revon. Now I hear ya. You can argue Hammer Dragon tier for his draw power and his inherent base power, but Revon might be a weird include because he takes cards out of your hand, and in this kind of deck you want more cards to react to your opponent. But trust us, he's here for these. Firstly, like other level 3s, he has a base power of 200, meaning he can act as a wall against aggro song, giving you time to build your field, and they can't do much about it. On top of that, Revon's ability is no joke either. By paying 2 and discarding 1 card, reveal 1 creature from your hand, add that creature's power to you. For example, let's compare Hammer Dragon. Although level 2 starting as a deficit with 50 less power, he costs less and only needs 1 pay to activate. Let's say you pay 3 for his ability. That's him at 300. Revon, on the other hand, while needing 1 card with at least 100 power in your hand, for 1 less pay and 1 more hand card, you can gain the same attack power. And also, Revon's power gain isn't a set amount. So if you reveal a Revon from your hand, that's him getting 200 power, meaning he's at 400 power. Overall, yes, Revon might cost more, but he's a welcome foil in this deck. Of course, we can't go over a Gamble song without the luckiest creature in Gamble. That means we're talking about the level 3 human, Flaming Gambler Precila. Like Revon, she has 200 power and 1 ability that separates into 4 sub-abilities. You see, it's obvious that Precila has the Gamble ability, but unlike the other users of the keyword, her Gamble is changing on depending on what the opponent draws for the Gamble. For her Gamble, you have to pay 1. When she enters the field, depending on what card is sent, 1 of 4 abilities will be activated. If a creature is sent, you get to draw 2 cards. If a spell is sent, your opponent discards 2 cards. If a trap is sent, your opponent takes 2 damage. If a rune is sent, you heal 2 damage. For 1 simple pay, many different abilities can go off. She can increase your hand, heal your damage, and put you on the forefront and your opponent on the back foot by making them take damage or discarding cards. Even though she only has 1 ability, it's a strong one that can immediately swing the game back into your favor. Seeing that you only have to feel 1 type of card, triggers that makes up, what, 20% of your opponent's song? That's pretty good odds. Let's not forget, she has 200 base power, meaning she can perform just like Revon as a defensive wall. All in all, Precila makes a very powerful ace creature, who can swing the tide back to your favor or perform like a defensive wall. That's why she's a welcome for us. Now that we've covered all these creatures, let's move on to spells. Let's start off with one of my favorite spells. Take a Chance. Now, Take a Chance is not like your typical gamble, because it's the first one with a downside. By paying 1, you can guess if your opponent's next card is a creature or a spell, and if it is, you get to draw a card, but your opponent discards a card. This card replaces itself if you're successful. I know that doesn't sound great, but it can get you a better card. Lucky Lassie for Blood Presence, or Hammer Dragon for Pressure. But if it's successful, that means your opponent needs to discard, meaning they have to use more cards in their hand, making it's a lot better for you to fight your opponent. You're not doing top deck mode. They are. But stated before, this does have a drawback. If it's not successful, you have to discard a card. And in a deck that likes to react to your opponent's melody, it's not great. But that's why it's Take a Chance. You gotta take a chance to get successful. That's why it's a 4. Next up is a great spell from the Child Song, the definition of the comeback card, and Ezel's favorite. He loves this card, Dragon Wings. With Dragon Wings, you can discard a card from your hand and then draw 2 cards. A very simple effect, but a very good effect. And, fun fact, it doesn't really have a cost. Okay, I hear ya. I can hear you all typing down, you just said you have to discard a card. But, not really. Or how Ezel loves to tell us whenever he gets a chance to use it like this. Nope. Because how it works is, when you play it, if you have 0 cards in your hand, you don't have to do the discard. So if you time it just right, and you play it when you have nothing, you get 2 cards from zilch. This is literally the definition of an anime move. But, in the early game you have 5 cards in your hand, so it doesn't really work as well as the anime move that Ezel likes to tell us all the time. So yeah, it's a good card, but you don't want to see it all the time, so that's why it's a 3 of. And that's all of our spells, focusing on draw power and destroying the opponent's hand. Long had so many different ideas for traps, but after test playing with and against, he settled on whatever happens, happens. Whatever happens, happens is a powerful gamble trap card, and it can negate the opponent's creature activation, or it can make it free. Like Take a Chance, whatever happens, happens is a gamble card with a downfall. And if you see a creature or a trap in the gamble, good, it works, negate it. But if you don't see anything like that, you see a spell, rune, trigger, doesn't work, and it makes it free. But if it is negated, that doesn't stop them from doing it again. So say they have a Revon, they do his effect, they do the 2 damage, they discard a card, yada yada yada. And you play whatever happens, happens. Hey, it's a creature! Great, that does mean they can pay another 2 damage and another card to do it again. That means they have to pay 4 damage and discard 2 cards. It really just puts your opponent at a harder position, because now they have to do it again. And you don't like paying twice, nobody does. That's why it's a welcome 4 of. After a trap, we have our runes, and both of our runes fix our little power problem we got going on. First on the list is Called It. To play Called It, you must pay 1 to set it, and pay 1 at the start of your turn every turn. Now, how does Called It fix the problem? Very simple. Every time your gamble is successful, give all of your creatures plus 50 until end of turn. Now, I know, it's just 50 power, that's not great, but think about it like that. You got 2 hot guesses, 1 lucky Lassie, and 1 hammer dragon. That's 3 level 1s at 150 power, and 1 level 2 at 200 power. That's nothing to sneeze about. And if you get Revon and Precila on this, that's even scarier. That's why it's at 3. Now, if you're keeping track, that's 38 cards, meaning we only have 2 cards left till we get to triggers. Now, Long had so many different options, but he decided to go with Strength of Earth, a rune that's very similar to Called It, but unlike Called It, if you pay 1, you get plus 50 power to all your creatures. Meaning, if you have a lot of damage, you can just flip like 6 and give 300 power to your entire board. That's a tank right there. That's just charging in. That's why it's at 2 of. That's all the other cards out of the way. Now we're finally on to triggers. Our beloved song builder Oolong loves cards in his hand. He loves them. So that's why this song has 6 draw triggers, having a lovely 100 shield value. Really good against aggro songs like Arezon-Gamble, for example, keeping all those little guys out of the way while you get ready for your big plays. Whenever it's damage checked, you get to draw a card, which always is helpful. So that's why we believe 6 is the way to go. Finally, our heal triggers, supporting a lovely 150 power. Whenever your creatures get attacked, this stops them right in their tracks. Unfortunately, you're only allowed to have 5 copies in a song, and whenever it's damage checked or if checked, you get to heal 1 card, as long as it's not the card that you're healing right now. And that's our Set 1 Gambler's overview. As you saw in the video, we chose cards that take a back seat and see what the opponent's gonna do. As we test played with this song, we saw this is not a good song to deal 10 damage. This song wants to song out your opponents. Some suggestions of what other cards you can run is Flame Crash for that into board wipe if you lost your Revon and your Precilas, or Leave It to Luck for that potential destroying the creature on attack. That's all from me. Once again, I'm Kitsone, the main developer and the head artist for Thera. So, thanks for watching, and don't forget to check us out.